What if the contact he promised was gone? Became the final thing she ever questioned. Arizona heat pressed against the city that afternoon. Palm shadows stretched across the sidewalk outside a small bookstore in Phoenix. And near the front window, Skylar Bennett sat frozen in her car, staring at a name on the screen that shouldn't have existed anymore. Later, Dominic would tell detectives, "She always made things bigger than they were." But at exactly 2:14 p.m., Skylar vanished from everyone's routine. Phoenix, Arizona, Tuesday 2:14 p.m. She wasn't someone who disappeared silently. Every afternoon, she stopped at the same corner fruit stand before heading home. Same order, same short conversation, same wave goodbye. That day, the vendor watched her leave without touching the paper bag she already paid for. Something felt wrong enough to notice. Minutes later, Zoe received a voice note that sounded unfinished. A turn signal ticking, traffic passing nearby. Then Skylar whispering softly, "Why would he save it under?" The audio cut off. Voice note. First, nobody treated it like an emergency. Dominic said they argued over something stupid. Said Skylar needed time alone. Said she probably drove somewhere to cool off. But one detail kept circling inside Zoe's mind. Dominic claimed he deleted his ex's number months earlier. So why had Skylar looked shaken the moment she saw it? And why was the contact hidden beneath another woman's name? Main question: who was she trying to find? 3 hours later, Skylar's car was discovered near an abandoned garden trail on the edge of Camelback Mountain. Driver's door slightly open. Her denim jacket folded neatly across the seat. And resting in the cup holder, a melting peach that had never been touched. 3 hours later, that was the afternoon Ruby Bennett stopped closing the living room curtains before sunset. The detail that broke the case open was something Dominic thought nobody would notice. Not a message, not a confession, a missing stretch of time. By sunrise, Skylar's face had already spread across Phoenix. Printed flyers fluttered against bus benches. Volunteers searched hiking paths near Camelback Mountain. And inside Ruby Bennett's house, the television stayed muted while the front curtains remained half open, waiting for headlights that never came. Zoe barely touched her food. Skylar's denim jacket was still folded across the passenger seat exactly the way investigators found it. And somehow that made everything feel worse. Meanwhile, Dominic stayed composed. Too composed. Even during questioning, he kept repeating the same line. "I got rid of Jennifer's number a long time ago." But detectives uncovered something strange hidden inside his contact history. The number was never deleted. It had simply been renamed Abigail. Then another inconsistency surfaced. Traffic cameras captured Dominic's truck heading east through Scottsdale at 2:31 p.m. But according to his statement, he had already gone home. The timelines no longer matched. And investigators noticed something else almost immediately. For 47 minutes that afternoon, Dominic's vehicle activity completely disappeared from toll records and navigation logs. No intersections, no checkpoints, nothing. It was as if the truck had vanished with Skylar. 47 minutes unaccounted for. That silent gap became the center of the investigation. Because somewhere inside those missing 47 minutes, Skylar Bennett was never seen again. The first real crack in Dominic's story came from somewhere nobody expected. A roadside fruit stand outside Scottsdale. Until then, investigators believed Skylar disappeared somewhere inside Phoenix. But a local vendor named Mateo remembered seeing her that afternoon. Not frightened, not running, just unusually quiet. The Arizona sun was brutal that day. Wind pushed dust across the roadside tents while customers moved between baskets of peaches and oranges. And at 2:52 p.m., Skylar Bennett arrived alone, less than 40 minutes after her unfinished voice note. But Dominic had already told detectives she stormed off earlier and never contacted him again. That statement began falling apart almost immediately, because surveillance footage from a nearby tire shop showed Dominic's truck pulling into the fruit stand minutes after Skylar arrived. Then investigators noticed something disturbing. Skylar walked toward the shaded picnic tables behind the stand. Dominic followed several minutes later, but only one person was later seen leaving the area. Mateo remembered Skylar clearly for one reason. She kept twisting a thin silver ring around her finger while staring into the distance like she was trying not to cry. And before Dominic approached her, she quietly asked, "If somebody hides one thing that's small, what else are they capable of hiding?" At the time, Mateo thought it was just relationship drama. But days later, when police showed him Skylar's missing person poster, his expression changed instantly, because he realized he may have witnessed the final normal conversation of her life. Detectives thought Dominic was finally slipping. Then they discovered he had cleaned something before police ever arrived. Not his truck, his hands. During a second interview, investigators noticed Dominic constantly rubbing his palms against his jeans whenever Skylar's name was mentioned. At first, it seemed meaningless, until forensic teams recovered surveillance footage from a hardware store less than an hour after Skylar vanished. Dominic appeared calm. He purchased work gloves, a bottle of industrial cleaner, and a pack of heavy-duty trash bags. In broad daylight, 53 minutes after disappearance. But the detail that unsettled detectives most was what the cashier remembered afterward. Dominic kept looking toward the entrance doors like he expected someone to walk in behind him. Someone he was afraid of. Meanwhile, back at Ruby Bennett's house, the air inside felt frozen. Skylar's laundry still sat unfolded near the couch. A novel she had been reading remained open upside down beside the window. And every evening at sunset, Ruby still unlocked the front door before dinner, just in case Skylar suddenly came home. But she never did. Then investigators uncovered one final detail from the hardware store receipt. The purchase happened only 9 minutes after Dominic's truck disappeared from traffic cameras. 9 minutes later, meaning whatever happened to Skylar had likely already happened by then. The mistake Dominic made was returning to a place investigators had already searched. By then, national coverage had exploded across Arizona. Search crews moved through dry riverbeds. Helicopters circled hiking terrain outside Phoenix. And every interview Dominic gave sounded almost rehearsed. But detectives noticed something strange. 2 separate traffic cameras captured Dominic driving near Camelback Mountain 3 nights in a row after Skylar disappeared. Same road, same direction, same late afternoon hour. He claimed he was clearing his head. Investigators didn't believe him. Then a volunteer searcher found something hidden beneath brittle desert brush less than half a mile from the garden trail. Not a weapon, not clothing. A torn piece of fabric from Skylar's denim jacket. The same jacket left inside her car. Evidence found near trail, which meant someone had returned afterward. Someone trying to remove evidence and accidentally left part of it behind. But the detail that truly changed the investigation came hours later. Forensic teams discovered traces of industrial cleaning chemicals on the fabric fibers. The exact same brand Dominic purchased after Skylar vanished. Meanwhile, at Ruby Bennett's home, dinner plates were still being set for 3 people. Even though everyone already understood, Skylar wasn't coming home for dinner anymore. Dominic finally broke over one sentence investigators already knew was false. For nearly 2 weeks, he stayed controlled. Careful answers, measured reactions, perfect eye contact. But during his final interview, detectives placed 2 photographs side by side across the table. The hidden contact name and the torn denim fabric recovered near Camelback Mountain. Dominic stopped speaking immediately. Then detectives asked the question that changed everything. If Jennifer meant nothing, why did Skylar disappear the same day she discovered the truth? The room went silent. For the first time since the investigation began, Dominic looked afraid. Not emotional, afraid. Then came the detail investigators had been holding back. Tiny fibers from Skylar's jacket had been recovered inside Dominic's truck bed, beneath newly replaced floor lining. That was the moment his timeline collapsed completely. Meanwhile, across town, Ruby Bennett sat alone folding Skylar's clothes one last time. Slowly, carefully, as if she was still expected to come home and wear them again. Then, just before midnight, Dominic requested a lawyer. and detectives finally stopped calling Skylar a missing person. Dominic Hayes finally confessed after investigators recovered the last piece of evidence hidden near Camelback Mountain, a shallow burial site beneath dry desert brush. According to detectives, Skylar confronted Dominic after discovering he had secretly continued contacting Jennifer for months. The argument escalated, and somewhere inside those missing 47 minutes, Skylar Bennett never made it home again. Dominic later accepted a plea deal that spared Skylar's family a public trial. But for Ruby Bennett, nothing about it felt finished. Because grief doesn't end when the courtroom empties. Continues in quiet places, in folded clothes, in unopened mail, in empty bedrooms that still feel occupied. Months later, Zoe returned to the roadside fruit stand where Skylar was last seen alive. The owner remembered her immediately. Before leaving, he handed Zoe something investigators had missed during the search. A small paper bag. Inside was the peach Skylar bought that afternoon. Now dried and hardened by time. Untouched. Zoe cried before Ruby ever opened the bag. Because suddenly, the entire story no longer felt like headlines or evidence files. Felt real again. A normal afternoon. A hidden contact. One argument. And a life that never returned home. The porch light outside Ruby's house still turns on every evening before sunset. Not because they expect Skylar to walk through the door, but because love sometimes keeps showing up, even after justice finally does. Justice for Skylar Bennett. Subscribe to The Veil of Secret for more emotionally immersive true crime stories that uncover the silence hidden inside ordinary moments.